Hello friends and welcome back to the ScrapbookPal YouTube channel. My name is Deepa from DeeZinesByD and I'm so excited to be sharing this pull lever card with you today. So this card features the Avery Elle Birthday Paw-ty stamp sets and coordinating dies. These cute furry little animals sit upon this grassy field, and when you pull the lever, you get a little bit of fun because they dance around for you. Now, the best part about this card is that you don't need any extra special dies in order to make these cute little furry friends rock back and forth. So let's go ahead and get started. As mentioned, I'll be using the Avery Elle Birthday Party stamps and the coordinating dies. They have all of these cute little furry animals along with some confetti that you can use in the background, along with these cute little paws for the cat and the dog. I'm also going to be using the Lawn Fawn Grassy Hill border. I'll be using some VersaFine Onyx black and some Memento Tuxedo black. And I'll also be using some Distress Oxide inks, along with my Copic chows for coloring in those cute little images. My adhesives are some 3D foam squares, along with some ScrapbookPal tape in 1/4 inch and 1/8 of an inch, some Barely Art liquid glue, and you will need an X-Acto knife or something to cut. You'll need 3 small brads, and I'll be embellishing with Pink Fresh Studio Glacier jewels and also some goldenrod stickles, and I will be using some Nuvo crystal clear embossing powder and a white jelly roll pen. So to go ahead and get started, I'm just going to take these 3 animals. One is a cute little skinny cat, I would call it. There's a little fat cat and also a dog, along with the little paws that come with it. And I'm using my Memento Tuxedo black ink because this is a Copic safe coloring ink. And I'll just stamp these images out quickly with my MISTI. I did end up stamping them twice to get a nice crisp black line. And then I always like to kind of hit it with a heat tool just to make sure that it's completely dry before I start coloring, because I'm just always trying to make sure I'm not getting any smudging at all. And then I'll go ahead and color in all these cute little images. So I will be listing all of the different colors of Copic chows that I'm using for all of these images in the top left-hand corner of this video, and they're also listed in the description below. Now, I'm not doing any fancy coloring at all. These are just images that are colored simply with blending out each of the different colors. What I like to do is kind of lay down my lightest color and color in the entire image just to kind of get it saturated with that alcohol ink. Then I'll go in with the darkest color and then the medium color and blend it all out again with the lightest color. And then sometimes if I feel like my darkest color is a little too light and I blend it a little bit too much, I'll go back in and add it and blend it in a bit more with the medium color. I mean, how you color these in is completely up to you, but I like to use this technique especially for little cartoons, unless you're going to be adding some texture, in which you might want to do like a little bit of stippling with the marker. But I just found that I wanted like a nice smooth image for these guys. Now, I have to say that one of the things that I really like with this set is that it has those cute little paws for the cat and the dog. And what I really like is you could even kind of have like a pop-up card where you have the cat maybe popping up out of an area and you have like the little paws there holding on. I thought that would look really cute. But for this card, I did add those paws because I thought they added a little something and just really made the card kind of a bit more unique. Now, whenever I'm coloring in little cartoony images like this, what I like to do is to choose like a color scheme that's going to kind of be fluent throughout the card so that the colors don't kind of look mismatched. So what I chose for this card were some nice light greens, like an aqua-ish type green, a purple, and a pink. And those colors are also going to be represented on my background with the Oxide ink. So this way the colors kind of match from the animals all the way to the background. Now, the next step is to die cut all of these little images out, and Avery Elle has all of the little dies connected, so you just need some wire cutters to kind of pull them apart, and then you can kind of place them on the images and put them through your die cutting machine. Now, I'm showing you here that I like to use old tape dispensers to keep my washi tape in. This just makes it easier for me to find the end of my roll and pull off that tape so I can easily stick it down, especially when I'm doing die cutting of a bunch of little images like I'm doing here. Now, those paws can be a little tricky, but once you get them on there, they come off and they are just so very cute when they come out of the little dies. Now here's a neat little trick that I like to do is I like to use this white Sakura Jelly Roll pen because it adds just these little bits of highlights to your die cuts and especially to your coloring. I'm the type of person who likes to fill my entire image with color, and in doing so I sometimes lose my highlights. This is just a neat little way to get those little highlights back in a quick way where you don't kind of have to go back and recolor your images or maybe use a colorless marker to get rid of some of the darkness. So next we'll go on to our background. I'm going to be starting with Peacock Feathers Oxide ink, and I'm just using my blending brushes to add this beautiful blue to the top of the panel. Now the next color I'm going to be using is Seedless Preserves, and the best thing I find to mix the two colors or blend the two colors together is to add your second color, then go back to the first color and blend over the second again, and this allows the two colors to kind of mix and kind of create a cohesive gradient. Finally, I'm going to be adding some picked raspberry to the bottom, and as you can see, I'm adding more of that pink. So this is going to be the bottom half of my panel, and because I'm going to have grass covering it, I have to make this a little bigger than the other two sections of color in order to show behind that grassy field that we're going to create. So once I've done all of my blending, I'm actually taking some of those little confetti pieces from the stamp set, and I've added it to 3 acrylic blocks in sets of 3. This way I can kind of stamp them around each other in different ways to create a random background of confetti. And I'm just using my VersaFine Onyx black ink to do this because I want like a nice crisp black color to show through those vibrant colors in the background. Now another thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to use that Jelly Roll pen again, and I'm just going to color in those little strips of confetti. Not the stars really, but just those strips. And by adding that white, it actually makes those pieces kind of stand out a bit more. You can see it here. So this is just a little extra thing that I'm doing just to make my little confetti pieces stand out a bit. You don't have to do this. So in the end, you can see those little strips of confetti kind of stand out just a little bit more on that background. And now I'm going to take these L'Enfant grassy field dies to cut out the grass or the hills, and then I'll use some Oxide inks in Pine Needle to add a bit of depth to these fields, just to give them just a little bit more color and just add another element to our card. Now the next step is to create our actual interactive element. So all I did was to cut out some strips of cardstock, and these are about 3/8 of an inch wide. And the length doesn't really matter, just cut them long enough that you can cut different sizes from it. Now what I did to reinforce the strips was to add some double-sided strong adhesive. So this is the 1/4 inch ScrapbookPal tape, and I'm just attaching 2 strips together just to make them nice and strong. This is very important because we will be using this as the pull lever. Okay, so next I took one of the strips, and from one edge I measured in 1/2 inch and made a tick mark. Then I measured in from that edge to 2¼ inches and made a tick mark, and then again at 4 inches I made a third. Then I also took the other strips and cut out 3 strips that are 2½ inches in length. So you only need 3 of these and that one long pull lever. And this is how they're going to kind of go together. Now to do this, I put a foam mat underneath here. You could use anything just so that you don't poke yourself. But at those 3 marks that I made right in the center, I'm just going to poke 3 holes, 1 hole at each mark. Then I'm going to take the ends of those 3 shorter strips and line them up, and right at the bottom poke another hole there. So another 3 holes at the bottom of the 3 2½ inch strips. Now once I've got that done, this is where those 3 mini brads that you need come into play. So what I'm going to do is take each of those 3 strips and line them up with the hole on the long lever, and then put a mini brad through to connect the small strip to the pull tab. And then what I'm going to do is make sure you fasten it and pull down the two little pins at the back. Just pull them back, and then that creates like a nice little moving element. I've done that for all 3 of them, and a good tip is to kind of move them back and forth to get them fluid and kind of moving so that they're not going to kind of get stuck. Now the next thing you want to do is on your background, find the middle of your page. So that's what I've done there. And then I've lined up the lever near the bottom. And what I'm doing is I'm just marking where those 3 strips are sticking up. You want to make sure you're marking those strips as they're standing directly vertically at a 90-degree angle to the lever. Then what I did was connect those two marks that I made for each strip to create just a small little line, and I made it just a little bit bigger than the size or the width of that strip that's going to stick upwards. So these are just 3 slots that you're creating, and these 3 slots are where you're going to insert those 3 strips from the lever. So all I did here was I made a second line below the first one, and then all I'm doing is cutting out like a tiny thin rectangle, which is a slot where those, as I said, those strips are going to fit through. So that's all you're creating here. So once I've got that all nicely cut out, you can see the 3 slots there in a row. And so the next step is to actually put those 3 strips from the lever into there. So I'm just going to line them up and stick them through the little slots, and then hold the long lever flat at the back. And if I move it back and forth, you can see they start wiggling. Now you do need 2 other little strips to kind of secure that lever in the back. And all I'm doing here is adding some more ScrapbookPal tape. This is the 1/8 of an inch size, just to the 2 edges of that strip, because I don't want it to be attached to that long pull lever. Otherwise the lever is not going to move. So I'm attaching it on either side of the lever so that the lever is just kind of kept in place and it's not hanging all over and going all kind of wobbly. So I put 2 strips in between those three strips that are sticking up just to hold it in place. Once that was done, I went ahead and started working on the front of my card. And what I'm doing is I'm adding those little grassy hills. And it's important that when you do add them with foam squares, and make sure that the squares are not sticking to those 3 strips that are sticking up that are going to allow our animals to move. Then all that you have left to do to make this little contraption work is to add some more foam squares to the 3 strips and then attach your little furry animals. Once you've got them attached, then you can kind of pull your lever and see if everything is working well. And just kind of move it back and forth to just make sure that you've kind of worked it, and make sure that, you know, when the recipient gets it and uses it, that it's going to work properly. Now, the cutest part, I think, is to add these cute little paws for that cat on the left and the 2 little paws for the little dog on the right. And this, I think, just kind of makes the card complete, because they're holding on to those little hills and then they're just rocking back and forth and dancing. So now I actually have to add my sentiment. So I'm using the It's Your Birthday, which is part of the stamp set from Avery Elle, and I'm just going to stamp it out in some VersaFine Onyx black ink, and then I will heat emboss it with some Nuvo crystal clear embossing powder just to give it a bit of a gloss. In this case, because my entire card is so colorful, I just kept this strip simple so that it would kind of stand out and just show you what the card's all about. So again, I'm going to stick this on in the bottom left corner with some more foam squares, and then all I want to do is attach this to the front of the card. Now you're going to need to add a bunch of foam squares here. So I kind of doubled up the foam squares at the bottom near the lever because it has a bit more bulk to it. And then near the top, I just added 1 layer of foam squares. So it is on a bit of an angle, but you don't really notice it on the card. And as you can see, it just creates enough room for you to pull that lever. Now that I've got the card panel attached to the card base, all I have to do is embellish this and make it look like just a little bit better. I'm adding the Pink Fresh Studio Glacier Jewels, and I'm just adding a few of them around the sentiment on the hills. And then to kind of just make the background pop a little bit more and add a bit more pizzazz, I took my my goldenrod stickles, and I just kind of created a bunch more confetti in the background. So I used varying sizes of circles. Some I made some small little dots, some I spread them out and made bigger dots, and this just created just a little bit more fun. And there you have the final product. So I really hope that this lever pull technique is something that you guys can use on your cards, and I hope that you've been inspired to create something similar. Please note that the featured stamp set is available in the ScrapbookPal store, and that all links have been listed in the description below. Please don't forget to subscribe to the ScrapbookPal YouTube channel and hit that notification bell to be notified of future tutorials. I hope you all have a great day, and I hope to see you again next time. For now, we have another video that you can take a look at, or the one previous. Have a great day, guys, and I'll see you again next time. Bye!